morning, and welcome to Our Neutral Voices Presents A Financial Pillar, where we educate and bring awareness around the financial foundation of our lives. I am your host, Ryan Lepird, and today is our first episode in our financial literacy series, where we're going to be touching on subjects such as banking, credit, budgeting, and the financial choices we make and how they can affect our financial freedom. Joining me on the set today are my friends from DR Financial. We have Kris Hanna.
Good morning.
Mark Ellington.
Good morning.
And from Our Neutral Voices, Mildred Lopez.
Good morning.
And the man, James Scott.
How's everybody doing today?
Excellent.
Amen.
Yes. So how are we feeling today?
Pretty good.
Good. You all wake up and excited to come in and talk about finances?
Yes, I got my workout in, so I'm ready.
How was that journey traveling into town through that construction out there?
He weaved the orange cones pretty well this morning. He didn't hit any of them.
I just
Almost.
closed my eyes and
I found my route. Yeah, I've got here pretty smoothly this time. It's not like the first time down to the studio.
Amen.
But before we get started today, let's talk to the audience, tell them a little bit about ourselves so they can get to know us. Kris?
I'm Kris Hanna. I'm co-owner of DR Financial Group and ProTax. So we do investments, tax planning, work with a lot of small business owners and retirees with their investments.
Awesome. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Tell us one fun fact about yourself.
One fun fact is I'm a graduate of Oral Roberts University. Also attended Indiana Wesleyan, got my MBA there, and got into law school here in Fort Wayne at Indiana Tech.
Awesome. Mark?
Awesome. Good stuff.
I'm also with DR Financial. I'm a partner there and basically do the same thing Kris does. He's been my mentor. I was his mentor in Sunday school, and then he became my mentor now.
In the financial world.
Yeah, in the financial world.
That's awesome.
One fun fact about yourself.
I used to raise hogs.
Hogs?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was fun?
Oh,
was fun?
Yeah.
What?
More fun to eat 'em.
The smell will be with you forever.
Awesome. Mildred?
My name is Mildred. I am part of Our Neutral Voices as well as Neutral Voices Network. I have a history in accounting, and currently right now I run a men's clothing store. So
What's the name of the clothing store?
His house, men's apparel.
His house? Awesome.
Yep,
Quick
if
shout
you
out
need
to
an outfit, need some nice clothing,
Yes, come
check them
see
out.
me.
Yes. One fun fact about yourself, or was that the fun fact?
No, that's not a fun fact. I'm actually bilingual, so. That's
What
a fun
languages?
fact. Spanish.
Spanish?
Yes.
Let us hear something.
Yes. I've been encouraging my daughter. She's 9 years old to pick up Spanish. Just recently found out about an app, Duolingo, out there, which helps kind of train her
The
for that.
easiest when they're youngest.
Yes, love it. So we go to Savoy's, a place like that, try and encourage her to. Still can't get her to come out of the bubble and do that, though. Every
roll
awesome.
your R's. Gotta roll your R's.
Yes. Okay. James, talk to the people. Tell them something about yourself.
James Scott, native of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Actually grew up on the south side of Fort Wayne, so my heart is definitely heavy for this side. Business owner over here for 18 years. Matter of fact, we just hit 19 years over here. It's been a good journey, man. Love the people over here, love the atmosphere. I'm excited about some of the things that are on the way to impact and bring change.
Awesome. One fun fact?
Man, I love God.
Okay. Amen to that. Yeah. So, my name's Ryan Lepird, born and raised in Fort Wayne, attended many years ago Northside High School, went to college at IPFW here in Fort Wayne as well. I am currently a private banker with Star Financial Bank. Now would be a good time to bring up my disclosure that any opinions expressed on the show are mine and mine only, and not that of my employer. I enjoy my job, so I'd like to keep it. So, one fun fact about myself, I always hate this question when I'm in sales training and they put me on the spot because I can't think of it, so I thought hard about it last night. I like the smell of skunks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, we
So
got skunks
let me
and
explain a little bit,
hogs.
though.
Yes,
Skunks
please.
and hogs.
Let me explain a little bit. I've never really had the pleasure of being up close and personal with a skunk to know what that's like, but I'm talking about you're driving down the road, right? You get that smell. Ew. I'm rolling down the window.
Taking it in.
My daughter's in the back seat. She's like, Daddy, can you roll down the window? She's doing it as well. My wife's sitting in the front seat going, ew, you guys are weird. That may be, but I got somebody to be weird with me in the back.
Yeah, that's the first I've ever heard that.
Don't ask me why. Don't know. I could take it back to maybe second, third grade when they had those scratch and sniff stickers that you had, right?
Sniffed way too many of them.
They had the skunk one. Yeah.
Sniffed way too
Bubble
much of
gum,
something.
grape, all that stuff. But I don't know. So, our youth, the things that they expose us to. So, fun fact there. I'm gonna have to use that next time I get asked that question. So, but before we jump into our topic for today, James, I first want to take a second to thank you for giving us this platform. Access to the Neutral Voices audience to talk about something that I believe we're all passionate about, which is financial literacy and why that's important to our financial freedom. So anytime that I believe we educate or try to pass along information, I believe it's important to explain the why, why someone should listen, why the information is important. So James, tell us about the why. Why is this important to the Neutral Voices mission? And most importantly, what we're trying to accomplish with this show.
I think the biggest thing with that is people have to have the information needed in order to begin to change their mindsets. So I think it begins with educating and informing people, giving them the information, the tools, and the resources that they need, as well as the people that's tangible that they could touch and allow them to build the relationships that they need as they move forward. So this part right here is extremely important because a poverty mindset is a hard mind to begin to educate and to move forward. So if we could begin to financially give them stability and a good foundation to stand on financially, then at that point, everything else will kind of simplify itself, allow us to reach them in a more impactful way and sustainable way.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. So as I mentioned earlier today is the first episode in the financial literacy series. So we're just going to talk about financial literacy. And what does that mean? So when I say financial literacy, Kris, what do you think of?
Well, I think it's about learning about finances, and I think every day of our lives we can learn about finances. From being a little kid and getting your first allowance, to becoming an adult and getting a job. Even with myself being in the industry for now over 22 years, work a lot in the accounting and the investment side. I still learn stuff new every day. So literacy is always there and available. You just got to reach out and grab it.
Yeah. Mark?
I think it's about a journey, and it's about being intentional. Constantly have people, oh, Mark, I'm not good at this. Well, with the internet the way it is, there's a vast resource of information that you can start to educate yourself. I'd much rather have a person that isn't totally dependent on me for the decision. That, I just want to give out information, and then they're able to make a decision. But that's a journey for all of us.
Yes, journey. I like that word. We're going to touch on that here in just a second. So, Mildred, when I say financial literacy, what do you think of?
For me, would be concept and skills regarding my finances, how to create a budget, just different things that I've learned along the way that encompasses financial literacy.
Gotcha. James?
Man, it means so much. The ability to manage money, the ability to budget, the ability to understand that the choices I make are going to impact, my financial situation. So to be more intentional, to make better choices. So financial literacy, man, is so important, which goes back to when you ask the why. So if you're illiterate, then, man, you're in a bad space, and you'll stay there until you get the literacy aspect of it to change your mindset.
Absolutely. When you say that, that's what I kind of think back to. Financial literacy is just kind of an understanding of the financial system and, how it helps us to make wise choices. And I sit back and it's, being in banking, it's just kind of always come natural to me, and you kind of take that for granted that everybody knows this, everybody has this information. And I don't know that can think back to when I was ever truly taught that, right? And there's not much in school they teach you about. As important as finances are, school's not really talking about that, at least at grade school level. But it just kind of came naturally to me, thinking about that. So diving into this, and it really breaks down to the financial choices that we make, which that's what I can always sit back in my situation now that I'm in is, can't say I've ever experienced poverty, but I have experienced financial hard times, right? Like, hey, I need this next check to do this. But being able to make the wise choices with the money we have until that next check comes in, right, is the key to that. And that's what financial literacy means to me, is that you know and prioritize your financial life.
One
right?
of the things that you mentioned was about the education in the school. I'm not from Fort Wayne. I come from New York, and we were educated on our finances at a very young age, and even into high school.
Into the school system.
In the school system, and even I remember my junior and senior year working at a bank and going to school a week, going to the bank for a week, and having a paycheck that most kids didn't have, and learning how to write a check. My kids, they don't even know what a checkbook looks like,
Yep.
you know,
And-
because
and-
they're not taught that.
Yep. And in today's world, may not be a whole lot of need for that. It's
Right.
going into the future to do that. But yeah, I volunteer my time with JA here in Fort Wayne Junior Achievement. That's where I've kind of found a passion for, teaching, and has kind of, brought me into, the interest of this here, finding my love for teaching through Junior Achievement. And Junior Achievement's a great program, right? And they're going into the schools each year, but that's a 1-day session or a 5-day, depending on the program that they're doing. But if they don't have the structure at home to instill, that information that Junior Achievement's passing along, it's another day at school, I feel.
Or if
Right.
you were in my household, you would listen to what JA would teach and not what your mom taught you. My girls went through the program. They were excited, but they didn't want to listen to what I had to say. So I appreciate programs like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that also goes into another point that's, for us to learn at a young age, or as we're growing up, if we don't have that strong financial understanding or literacy at home, it's going to be hard to learn. Where are we getting that information from if our parents aren't understanding and they're not financially literate?
That's
Right,
where we talk about in church, where generational curses, because you're teaching them to be illiterate in their finances. So
Yeah.
we need to break that.
Great thing we have a show like Our Financial Pillar. Or Financial Pillar with
Absolutely.
that.
And as I think James mentioned earlier, that's kind of the purpose for what we're trying to do here, is spread that education and awareness out there, and instill that at all ages, right? Because we can't take for granted that this is just, a youth thing, right? If they're not being taught it at home, it is, as Mildred said, generational, right? And unfortunately, you start off making bad decisions at a young age, and that stays with you, for years, and sometimes ever, if you don't learn how to correct that. So, going back here, and my page just went away, I would like to actually give the definition of what financial literacy is. So the definition of financial literacy is the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills, including personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. And there's a quote here I want to share. Don't know the author, didn't see that, but when you are financially literate, you have a foundational understanding of money, but it is a lifelong journey of learning. Right? So I think, I thought long and hard when I read that quote, and kind of came up with a metaphor here, and bear with me because it makes a lot of sense in my head. I just don't know if it's going to come out that way. Right? But when I think, it's a lifelong journey, the financial foundation, right, is just an understanding of we need money, we need to earn money, we need to have money to live. Right? But that's just the foundational understanding, and some people don't get past that. But we can't live on a foundation, right? Use the metaphor of a house. We want to have walls, right? We want to have a ceiling over our head. We want to feel secure in our house. So to get that, we need the information on paying bills, prioritizing, making wise decisions with the money if we want to be comfortable in that house with the walls and the roof over our head. But from there, it doesn't stop. The journey continues, right? Do you want to be in that 1-bedroom house? You're secure. Or do you want to move up? More kids, you want to be in that 2-3 bedroom house, do you want to be suburbs, basement, everything like that? Or do you want to be in that mansion somewhere on the hills? Or do you want to be in the the penthouse downtown Chicago, something like that? Those are all different levels it takes of understanding of our financial system to get there, right? But if you have all that knowledge and you have the information to be in that penthouse in Chicago, but you still choose to be in that 1-bedroom house in downtown Fort Wayne, that's perfectly fine. But you can rest easy knowing that you have the information to be here if you want to. You choose to be here, right? But if you're here and you don't have that information, you're here because you have to be, right? You don't have the information to make that choice. You're just kind of stuck, whether it be from generational curse or whatever it may be. So,
Or if you're living in Fort Wayne right now, good luck with the 1-bedroom house.
yes, price range.
There's no, there's people are trying to rent, house apartments, and it's hard to come by. So understanding financial literacy is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are probably topics for other episodes, but even that when we're talking about renting, right? Home ownership is key, right, to the financial foundation of being financial freedom. So home ownership, knowing about that, understanding that. A lot of people don't understand, especially younger age coming up, if they've always rented, that you can have a house for a smaller payment than you can have an apartment for a lot of times, but you own something. You're building equity in something that is value. You can sell at a later time and make that money back or make that.
Right, your money's working for you in the equity of your house versus working for somebody else that owns your rental.
Absolutely.
So it's a key part to investing in your future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are some key points of, we talked about the financial literacy, including, financial management, budgeting, investing. Mark, what's a key in there that you hear?
Well, I think financial literacy is getting that education so that you got a plan. We run towards what we see. And if you don't have a plan, and I see this all the time, somebody goes from an average income to an accelerated income, and they don't have a plan, and they don't know where the money went. So it's having a plan, and you're running towards that plan.
Yes. So how important is budgeting to you?
Well, I think it's huge. Initially putting a budget together, I've done that for years, and now it's automatic. I don't really think much about my budget. It's automatic in where the money goes, and also learning to set your, how you're going to live. What do you really need to live? Because I see that as well. People live beyond their means. I grew up in a family where you lived within your means, so I learned that very early. But still, when I got my first job, next thing I knew, I had credit cards run up because all of a sudden you have the income to get those things you think you deserved. I deserve a new car. I deserve more clothes. And pretty soon you're doing that.
Yes.
And then it took me 2 years to get my budget put back in place and get on track again.
That's a great point, Mark. And I can think back to, I've always been good with money, never missed a payment. But when I was young, first credit card as IPFW one day, they said, sign up for it, got a $500 limit. Want to know what I did with that money?
You don't even remember what you
12-inch subwoofers in the back of the truck.
There you go.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Still loved it.
Yeah.
But the key to that was, yes, I did that, but I made the payments, right? Sometimes we get the things, especially when we're young, that we don't really need. I didn't really need them, but I could do it at that time. But we get those things, and then we don't pay those, right? And then we're starting off from day one in a negative.
Mark, when you were coming up, were you ever taught finances, or have you ever experienced poverty? Going back to that, I heard Ryan said that he really doesn't understand or hasn't really experienced it. So what about you?
Things were tight. We grew up on a farm, and things were always tight. We didn't have a lot of extra, but, we didn't go without. But I watched my dad, and he would talk about it. You got to live within your means. And, I didn't have a job early on because I worked on the farm. And I got a certain amount of money. If I was going out on a date, I got a certain amount of money or a certain amount of money to put money in the car. But I began to understand that it takes money. It takes a job to provide those things. But we were never, poverty. Things were really tight all the time.
I think that's key. Thinking back to my situation is, I've from the day that I was able to be employed, I've been employed. Starting at, for those of us from the area that remember, Atz's Ice Cream, that was my first job because I think they'd hired at 15. And at 15 and a half, I could move on to the grocery store, which at the time was Rogers, Scott's, now Kroger's, right? But I've held a job my entire life through school and everything else that I did. Really, the only time I was unemployed is recently when I went through a job transition, right, and left one to go to another one. That's a scary time, but keeping that solid, working foundation is key, right, to our financial freedom and having that, where that next paycheck's coming from.
No, I think it's all about and it's the work ethic. And when you start out at 15 or even younger doing paper routes and other jobs, it really builds it into you. I remember growing up, we never lived in poverty, but I remember my dad working a lot of hours, working a lot of overtime. He'd work overtime 2 to 3 times a week. He certainly missed him, but that money provided for to go on vacation and do extra things that normally our family with the income couldn't do. And so that work ethic was just instilled in myself and my brother, and so that meant a lot to us. And I always tell people when I'm helping them with their budget is there's 2 ways to fix your budget: spend less or make more money. Sometimes it's both. There's no real magic you can do. You got to make more money, so you got to put in those extra hours, work longer, or make more sales, or you got to fix your budget and spend less.
Yeah, I like the term I hear a lot: living your wage. Right, you got to live your wage.
Yes.
Right. We want all these nice, fancy things, but if you can't afford it, it's going to cause problems down there. And when we mention budget's a word that scares me. I hate the word budget. Right. I don't want to sit. I think sitting down and going over all my bills and everything like that. And I don't do that. I don't want to do that. But I can also think that budgeting is just a mindset, making wise choices with your money and knowing what the priorities are.
Well, I think early on, I remember I didn't like the budget. Then I began to realize it gave me freedom, because all of a sudden I knew what I had before I went someplace. So there's real freedom in a budget if you put it together. But
That's
we
good.
all hate it.
Me personally, I hate that word. I think of sitting down and going over my bills, and I got to pay this and I got to pay that. And it's just a scary word to me.
So
but in all actuality, I am just budgeting in my mind. It's not sitting down. It's not making payments. It's prioritizing, right?
So the freedom in budgeting, that's extremely interesting. That's powerful. So when it comes to relationships and talking to people about budgeting, a lot of times people are embarrassed to sit down and talk about their finances or share them, but not knowing that, man, if they did that, man, the freedom that you get, it's like you could take a deep breath because you understand, which is what we're talking about, extremely being literate about where you are and accepting that. And if you want to do better, like he said, understand what you need to do to change your circumstances right where you are.
Well, budgeting now means freedom later.
Yes.
You're going to, if you budget now, and that's what I tell people all the time, if you budget now and do things right, at 50, you're going to have choices that nobody else has. You're going to decide, do I want to continue at the job I'm at, or do I want to do something else, or can I quit working? Kris and I run into people who have done a good job. At 50, they don't have to work. They're set if they want to be.
Yes,
they
have the choice. They want to continue working.
A lot of them
great.
still
They don't
work.
want to.
A lot of them still work, but it's funny. I'll run into people that are really well off, and they still live on that income.
Mm-hmm.
They could double their income, and I know Kris sees it too. They could live on twice their income. Or else Kris and I'll sit down and say, what do you think your income needs to be? And they'll put it way up here, and a year later they come back, wow, that's way too much. I can live on a lot less than that, because they've learned to live within that.
Yep. On the reverse of that, being in the banking industry, you see a lot of stuff, and there's plenty of people with money that still living beyond their means. The more money they make, the more money they spend, right? So we think that, hey, just because we get to this level, right, we have this income, we're going to be financially free, we're going to be great, right? We can do whatever we want to. No, you can still, as your money goes up, as your wage goes up, right, your living goes up if you don't make those right decisions, right?
So that sounds so great and wonderful and a bed of roses, but what if you literally live paycheck to paycheck? And you said budget is a freedom, but for many it could mean jumping off a building, because they come to the realization that I don't have enough to feed my family. I don't have enough to keep a roof over my head. So I understand that.
Real problems, yes.
This is
real choices. Real choices.
Single moms, single dads, one income. During the pandemic, a lot transitioned not to better paying jobs, but below their means, because that's all they can find. So having someone sit down and do your budget, it's like, how am I going to make it?
Yeah.
And then they get depressed. And then you hear people dealing with mental health issues, and their finances is one of them.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think, and what you're saying, Mildred, I get it. And I think it relates to a whole bunch of things. Like, one, if you're not literate enough to understand the things that you need to do to change your circumstances. But then a beautiful thing that Kris said is like work ethic. Understanding where you are and what you need to improve your situation. When you get to a certain age, you understand, like, if we weren't taught finances when we were younger, right? Like, I come from a impoverished household, single mom, okay? So I watched my mom struggle. So it was my choice to choose, because of my work ethic, to decide if I'm gonna bust my butt and work 12, 16 hours a day, because I want to change the circumstances. And I want to be able to go back and help my mom live a better life, right? And make her comfortable, whatever it takes. So I think it's very important, man, that the literacy aspect needs to be given, but people need to receive it. And when they receive it, we need to make choices. Work ethic is so important, and people need to understand that to take ownership of your space and work yourself out of that space if you're unhappy being in it. I can give you all the resources, all the information, but if you don't choose to utilize the tools that are given to you and attach yourself with a good work ethic to grow yourself forward and out of your certain space, then it falls back on the person. We can give you the world, but we can't hold your hand, and we can't sustain you for you. So that's why we're here, to give the information, but the people need to receive it, choose to work it, and kind of tap into their own mindset and be like, I'm tired of living paycheck to paycheck. I'm tired of wondering if I could put food on the table for my kids. So what do I need to do as a parent? I might be away from little Johnny, or little Susie. I missed a whole lot of my kids' stuff coming up, like a whole lot. If I were to line them up in a room right now, they'll tell you, well, Dad, we know you worked a lot. I was frustrated when I was young. But today, and my boys tell me all the time, I appreciate you because I saw what you did. So now, the example that I saw, I live it. It works.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there were many
That's
years
awesome.
that I
Yes.
worked a full-time job and then did 20 to 30 hours on a weekend to make, I worked in a foundry on the weekends to make extra money to, make ends meet and to try to get ahead. Yeah. And I remember my son, same thing, James, saying, Dad, I want to get a job. Why don't I have to work as much as you do? Because he didn't see a lot of me.
Chris, you got some dad?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's important to find a mentor. You know, that mentor may not be a parent, because maybe you're in a single-parent household or maybe no parents. But I think we all have somebody in our lives that can be a financial mentor. Mm-hmm. So you got to look, who can that person be? Find that person and help them walk through your budget difficulties. You know, they maybe can teach you how to make more income, or find ways to help cut expenses by co-living with somebody for a while, like, another single parent and their kids, or realizing, hey, I don't need, cable or this membership or that.
Yeah.
There's ways to figure out, take a sacrifice for 3 or 6 months on a certain expense.
Absolutely. And, shout out to those parents out there that are, struggling, but trying to do the right thing, working those jobs, making an income. And that's what we're here for, is to kind of bring the financial literacy aspect to that and help as well. So wrapping up here today, I think great first show. I think it went very well. I want to say thank you to our guests for being here today, and most importantly, our listeners out there. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. You enjoyed the message that we're trying to pass along, and, to ask for your help, because our message can only get as far as the ears that we have out there. So I'd ask the viewers to, share the video, like the links. James, you want to tell the people where they can connect with us?
Everything that you're hearing right now actually is on podcast. So you can go Apple Podcasts, you can go Spotify, a lot of your popular platforms. You can actually go to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Right now, it's across all of those platforms. You can always go back and review it again. And we have so much more to come. This is just the introduction, where we're kind of just introducing ourselves to you and having general conversation to begin to build that relationship that's needed to have further conversations. So as we move forward, what we're going to do is begin to tap into an itinerary that specifies everything that we think we want to share or should share with you, that will give you the information and resources and the tools, and to connect you to the people that would help you move forward and better your situation and your circumstances.
Absolutely. Help us, help you, spread the word, okay? Our Neutral Voices, a financial pillar. Join us next week, where we're going to touch on banking. why it's important to understand the banking system and to wisely utilize the banking system as well. I'm your host, Ryan Lepird. I had a great time being here. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank
Peace.
you. Have a good day.
Thank you.